We were so involved in the healthcare debate, spent over $3 million trying to stop taxpayer funding of abortion. Came to Indiana in January to give Brad Ellsworth, I serve with Brad, I know him well, to give him a clear message. 7 out of 10 of your constituents oppose taxpayer funding of abortion. I wish Brad Ellsworth would have listened in January. We wouldn't be here in August with the bus, with his picture right up there. Brad Ellsworth campaigned as a pro-life Democrat. When the pro-life Democrats were needed to stop taxpayer funding of abortion, they went along with Nancy Pelosi and Barack Obama. So here we are. We're delivering the message today that your vote, Brad Ellsworth, for the largest expansion of abortion funded by our tax dollars since Roe v. Wade will not be tolerated. It will have consequences. I'm standing here today with pro-life activists that have made this great state the pro-life state that it is. There have been national organizations that have been fighting the fight right alongside of us, and this one for many, many years. Tom Minery, a fellow Coloradoan, is here with me from Citizen Link. He is the Senior Vice President of Citizen Link, and let's ask him to come forward now.
Thank you, Marilyn. Citizen Link is the advocacy arm of Focus on the Family, and I've been at Focus on the Family for a long time, and we missed Dr. Dobson, who retired earlier this year, so it's not the same place, but we're soldiering on. Let me say before I begin, I'm sorry we're late. Now, we left Vincennes about an hour ago, which according to my watch is right about now. So we must have traveled into the past to get here. I can't figure it out. How you can.
You went 41, you did.
All I want to explain to you is one thing, which is how they did the dodge. What did they do to allow Brad Ellsworth to try to convince you that there is no abortion in this Health Care Act? After all, did not the President say to the nation in the State of the Union last winter that no federal dollars will be used to pay for abortions? And didn't we all read about this executive order that was issued in March that said no federal funds will be used to pay for abortions? Well, it is not true. It is plainly not true. Regarding that presidential executive order, about $5 billion in the healthcare fund is used for a set of programs called high-risk pools for people who cannot otherwise get insurance because of pre-existing conditions. It's a good thing to do that. Abortion is allowed to be funded in that high-risk pool set of programs, $5 billion, plainly not covered by the President's executive order, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Research Service that just last month issued a report that said the President's executive order does not apply to this $5 billion, regardless of what you read in the press, regardless of what the President says, regardless of what Brad Ellsworth says. Now, about that statement from the speech to the Union and the gathered members of Congress last February, the President said no federal dollars will be used to pay for abortion. You have to understand what the man means when he says federal dollars. He doesn't mean what you and I mean by federal dollars. He means that dollars you have already sent via your tax returns from your checkbooks. Those are federal dollars. But that's not enough to pay for the forthcoming government-subsidized health care programs that are going to be upon us in the year 2014. Tax money is not, and already collected tax money is not enough. If you sign up for one of those government-subsidized tax-paid health care programs, you will be forced to send a separate check to pay for the rest of it. The rest of it that is used to pay for abortions. In other words, you still have to pay for abortions even though you do not believe in abortion yourself. If you participate in one of those plans, you will be required, as a member of one of those plans, to send a separate check, the indignity of it, that will be used for other people's abortions. Now, that money goes to the federal government, but the president doesn't regard that as federal money. It's a dodge, it's a scam, it's weasel wording, but it was all they could do to give Brad Ellsworth cover so he could say that he's still pro-life. It does not work. Thank you very much. Remember in November.
We also have Ryan McCann with us, and he is with Indiana Family Policy. And Ryan, would you come? We've been on many stops together, and we love having you.
Hey, thank you very much, Marilyn. Thank you guys. Thank you very much. Let's give another hand to Susan B. Anthony Liz for getting this bus together, coming all the way out. Marilyn for coming all the way out from Colorado, and Tom as well. It's a blessing to be the state affiliate of Focus on the Family at the Indiana Family Institute, and we appreciate that. I come today as the Executive Director of the Indiana Family Action. We're the advocacy arm of Indiana Family Institute, and I'm also the Executive Director of our state PAC as well. And it's great to be down here in Evansville. A lot of fun here on the bus tour, just exposing the truth of what's been happening in Congress when we look at the health care bill. It's just amazing to me that you have an individual like Brad Ellsworth who represents this area. We talked a lot about him and going to talk a lot more about him, unfortunately. Ran as a pro-life Democrat, comes to Washington, D.C., promises to hold the pro-life line, and then when push comes to shove with the health care bill, votes to use our taxpayer dollars to fund abortion and Planned Parenthood. And that added to the fact that our state and federal tax dollars already go to fund Planned Parenthood generally, though there was always that qualifier there that they couldn't use tax dollars to directly fund abortions. But now through the insurance plan that Tom has so eloquently talked about, they're going to be able to directly fund abortions. And then, of course, we know when President Obama came in to overturn the Mexico City policy, so that we're currently funding abortions overseas. So it's just amazing the last year or so, the amount of abortion funding going on with our tax dollars. And the left likes to talk about how we're a divided country on social issues, but when it comes to funding with tax dollars for abortion, the country is overwhelmingly opposed to that. You know, the polls that I've seen see 70% of people are opposed to funding abortion with tax dollars because they understand there's a lot of folks like you and me that are out there that have more problems with abortion, and forcing us to use our tax dollars to fund that is just not right. So Indiana Family Institute, we get involved in a lot of state issues at the State House. I'm our head lobbyist down at the state legislature, trying to keep those guys and gals in line, and let me tell you, it's like herding cats down there, but it's a blessing to try to do that. We've got a lot of good candidates up for election this session, or this year, and you're going to see some here. We talked about Brad Ellsworth and Dan Coates. You'll see a lot of parity between the candidates this year, which I think will be interesting. You see Brad Ellsworth and his history of voting for health care that funds abortion. Then you have Dan Coates, who used to be a congressman from Indiana, if you remember that, pro-life, pro-family kind of guy, and just a really stark contrast there of philosophies and a very different approach to the pro-life issue. Then you also have Brad Ellsworth's 8th district, which you all are a part of, in the U.S. House, and he's of course vacating that seat to run for Senate. So you have the Larry Bouchon